Hi, my name is John Consalvi and I'm the CEO of LinguaHealth and Grupo Lingua. I'm here today talking to Dr. Brenda Gorman about issues in speech-language pathology. Dr. Gorman is visiting us from Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dr. Gorman, how can speech-language pathologists contribute to the identification and prevention of reading difficulties?
This is a critical area. I'm glad you've brought up this topic. We have a very critical role, and I think when I started practicing in the 90s, we sort of knew we had a role and we didn't know exactly what our role was. Within the last 10 years, there's been a tremendous push. We now know that language is a significant contributor to literacy. Well, perhaps we've always known, but we haven't really, there hasn't been a huge push in our field for direct participation. Now there by all means is. So we have a very important role in this process. Language is a significant contributor to literacy. Language develops essentially from birth, whereas literacy formally starts, maybe we'd say late preschool, kindergarten, first grade. However, we can see signs and identify early the children who are most likely to have reading difficulties later. And a lot of those signs relate to language development. Some of the warning signs are, does the child have speech-language difficulties? And I'm talking early. Our toddlers, our preschoolers, is there a family history of speech-language difficulties in the family? That's another risk factor for later reading difficulties. Are there communication difficulties in the home? Even with good input, does the child have difficulty learning language? Many of these precursors are related to language development. And as Hugh Katz has said, children with speech-language impairments are reading disabilities waiting to happen. And who sees these children first? SLPs do. So our role in terms of identification is important. Our role in terms of prevention is extremely important. Many people think that we can be preventing a high number of cases of reading disabilities later through early intervention, through intervention targeting children's language knowledge, their phonological awareness, these contributors. And even as children are identified with reading impairments later, once they get to that process, many children also have language difficulties. We know as SLPs that probably 70–80% of our caseload, children who have language difficulties are also experiencing reading difficulties. Mm-hmm. Often they're seen by two specialists, a speech-language pathologist and somebody who specializes in reading disabilities. So we can also contribute there, developing a cohesive intervention plan. And again, a lot of what these children need is continued improvements in their language skills, their comprehension. If they don't have comprehension skills, well, then they're going to have difficulty with reading comprehension as well. So again, we have an important role in terms of early identification, in terms of prevention, and in terms of intervention.
So Brenda, when I was in graduate school, I took a reading course. I was told by one of my professors that it would be a good idea to take a reading course, and I was fortunate enough to have an assistantship at the Center for the Study of Reading in Champaign-Urbana. What would you recommend to graduate students that they know they're going to work with the pediatric population and they know that these children are ultimately may have problems with reading, and communication goes hand in hand with literacy in many ways? What would you recommend to them?
What you did is wonderful. If there is a course available, that's excellent. Some programs, we embed literacy within our child language courses, which is also a plus. Is it enough? Well, no, a course in and of itself is very valuable. There are a couple of wonderful resources that I'd be happy to share on your website. One of them has a chapter that I co-authored with Ron Gillum, really specifically for speech-language pathologists to help them understand the relationship between language and literacy, and some very practical suggestions we have for assessment and intervention.
Well, thank you very much, Brenda. That information is very useful. We'll make sure that we add that information on our website.
Sure.